My name is Nadine Eggleston. I'm the practice manager at an ophthalmology practice at the Eye Center of Columbus downtown. It is a great facility that the City of Columbus helped us get in place. There are over 30 ophthalmologists providing specialty care in separate practices, a state-of-the-art ambulatory surgery center. We see tens of thousands of patients a year, and I think we do a very efficient job of providing quality care. Over 300 people employed, so I'm kind of on both sides of the healthcare. When I started working for this practice 25 years ago, we are now getting reimbursed 1/3 of what we got paid for. I'm just going to pick cataract surgery. Yet our operating costs continue to go up. My boss is kind enough to provide health care costs entirely for all of his employees. How does he continue to do that when Medicare continues to reduce what they're paying and there's the threat of more cuts coming? And the private insurance companies follow suit.
Well, it's a great question, and let me talk about Medicare generally. Medicare, I think, is one of the cornerstones of our social safety net. The basic idea is you've been working all your life, you retire, just like you've got Social Security that you can count on, you've also got health care that you can count on. You're not going to go bankrupt just because you get sick. But in the same way that Social Security has to be tweaked because the population's getting older, we've got to refresh and renew Medicare to make sure that it's going to be there for the next generation as well. And the key problems are not just that more people as they retire are going to be part of Medicare. The big problem is just healthcare inflation generally. The costs of healthcare keep on skyrocketing. Now, the way we've been dealing with it, which I think is the wrong way to deal with it, is basically under reimbursing our providers. The right way to deal with it is to work with the providers to figure out how can we make the system less wasteful, more efficient overall, and that way we're paying, your boss, if he's spending $1 on care, he's getting reimbursed $1, but we're also making sure that the care he's providing is exactly what the person needs and high quality for a better price. And that's part of what healthcare reform was all about. I'll just give you a couple examples. One of the things that we were doing in Medicare was we were giving tens of billions of dollars of subsidies to insurance companies under the Medicare Advantage plan, even though that plan wasn't shown to make seniors any healthier than regular old Medicare. So we said, all right, we're not going to end Medicare Advantage, but we are going to have some competitive bidding, and we're going to force the insurance companies to show us, well, what value are you adding, how are you helping to make these seniors healthier, and if you're not helping, then you shouldn't be getting paid. We should be giving that money to the doctor and the nurse and the other people who are actually providing care, not the insurance companies. Well, there was a lot of hue and cry about this, but it was absolutely the right thing to do because now we just found out the actuaries from Medicare said the changes we've already made has extended the life of the Medicare trust fund for another 12 years, which is, by the way, the longest it's ever been extended as a consequence of a reform effort. So we've made Medicare stronger just with some of the changes that we've already made. But you're absolutely right that we're going to have to keep on making these changes to continue to make it stronger, and that will affect not just Medicare, it will affect the entire healthcare system because there's no doctor out there who doesn't see Medicare as the 800-pound gorilla. If Medicare is saying you've got to improve your quality and efficiency, then they will because they've got a lot of Medicare patients. But they also have a lot of regular patients. So hospitals, doctors, everybody starts getting more efficient as Medicare gets more efficient. The key is making sure that we're not just cutting benefits. And frankly, this is an argument that I have with my friends in the Republican Party sometimes. One big change that some of them have advocated is to voucherize the Medicare system. You basically, instead of once you have Medicare, you knowing that you can take that and go get care anywhere you want, we would just give you, all right, here's whatever it is, $6,000 or $7,000 or whatever. You go shop and figure out what kind of best deal you can get. The problem is that if Medicare costs if healthcare costs keep on going up, but your voucher doesn't keep on going up, you're going to be in trouble. And suddenly you've got seniors who find themselves way short of what they need in terms of providing care. We've got to change how the healthcare system actually operates. And that means more prevention, more preventive care. It means better, that we reimburse people for checkups. It means we reimburse doctors when they're consulting with people, on things like smoking cessation, weight control, and exercise. There are a whole bunch of things that can make us healthier, reduce our costs overall, but unfortunately the system doesn't incentivize them right now. We need to change that. Okay? All right. Anybody have any last burning question? That was technically the last one, but this has to be like one that you're just, man, I really need an answer for.
All right. It's a pretty general question.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a very general question here. My name's Colin O'Reilly. This is my dad, Mike. I work on Wall Street. I was wondering what kind of changes we can expect to see in the reform in the next couple of years.
Well, here's the essential components of Wall Street reform that we set up here. Number one is that we've got we had a system in which there was huge amounts of leverage that banks could take. And what leverage means is if they got $1 in deposits, they were making a $40 bet using that $1. Which, when times are good, means you're making a lot of money, right? You're putting $1 down of your own money and you got $40, and when the market's going up, you're making out like a bandit. But when the market goes down, when it starts deleveraging, you're in trouble. And that's basically what happened with Lehman's and a lot of these other companies. So one thing that we've said is that we've got to have, for big firms that are what we call systemic, that if they go down, the whole system could go down with them. We've got to have a better check and say, you know what, you've got to control a little bit how you work in terms of leverage. You've got to have enough capital, actual money, to cover the bets that you're placing so that you're not putting the whole system at risk. That's number one. Number two, there's a whole derivatives market out there, which, frankly, even the bankers don't completely understand. But you've got trillions of dollars, and if you work on Wall Street, you're familiar, obviously, with the derivatives market. I mean, you've got trillions of dollars that are basically outside of the regulated banking system. And people didn't know who's making bets on what. And what we said was that derivatives market, it can continue, but it's got to be in an open, transparent marketplace so that everybody knows, who is betting on what. And we're very clear about, who the various parties are in these complex derivatives transactions. That means the regulators can follow it a little more closely. That's number two. The third thing that we did is we made sure that we don't have taxpayer bailouts again. So we've set up a system whereby if a big firm gets in trouble, we're able to essentially quarantine it, separate it out from the rest of the pack, liquidate it without it spilling over into the system as a whole. That's the third thing. And the fourth thing is having a consumer financial protection agency that is really going to do a good job making sure that consumers know what they're getting when it comes to financial products. I mean, when you buy a toaster, there's been some assurance provided that that toaster will not explode in your face. Right? There are a whole bunch of laws in there. People have to do tests on the toasters to make sure that nothing happens. But if you buy a mortgage that explodes in your face because you didn't know what was going on, everybody acts like, well, that's your problem. Well, no, it's actually all of our problems, because part of the reason we had this financial crisis was because people did not always understand the financial instruments that they were purchasing. A lot of these subprime loans that were being given out, a lot of these no interest, you can buy your house, you don't put any money down, you don't pay any interest, you got this beautiful house. And naturally people, were thinking, well, this sounds great. But what they weren't looking at was, okay, all right, there's a balloon payment 5 years down. This is only going to work if you're housing the value of your house keeps on appreciating, and if it stops appreciating, suddenly it's not going to work anymore. People hadn't thought through all those ramifications, and that had an effect on the whole system. So what we said is, we're going to have a strong consumer finance protection agency whose only job is to look after you when it comes to financial products. And Joe, Ron, and I were just talking about how it was only 7-8 years ago when Michelle and I were trying to figure out our student loans, how are we going to invest for the kids' college education. We had, at the end of the month, I'd be getting my credit card bills, and I'm a pretty smart guy, but you open up some of those credit cards, you don't know what's going on. You don't read all that fine print. You just look at the statement. Well, as an example of the kinds of things that this new agency are going to be enforcing, we've already passed a law, thanks again to Mary Jo and Sherry. We've already passed a law that says if a credit card company can't raise the interest rates on existing balances. So I can't, attract you with a 0% interest. You run up a $3,000 balance, and then suddenly they send you your next statement and it says, your interest went up to 29%. You can't do that. I mean, they'll still be able to say we're going to raise your interest rate to 29%, but that can only be on the balances going forward. It can't be on the money that you borrowed where you thought it was at 0%. Well, that's an example of straightforward, honest dealing that we're going to be expecting. We think that the financial markets will still make money. The banks can still make money, but they got to make money the old-fashioned way, which is loan money to small businesses who are providing services to the community. Loan money to Joe for his architectural firm, and he's going to make sure you pay him back. Loan people for mortgages, but make sure that you've done the due diligence so that you're not tricking them into something they can't afford. Make sure that it's something that you can afford, right? They're just a bunch of basic common sense reforms that we're putting in place that will allow the market to function, because the free market is the best system ever devised for creating wealth. But there got to be some rules in the road so that you're making money not by gaming the system, but by providing a better product or a better service. All right? Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for spending the time. I know it got a little warm, and you guys just hung in there like troopers. I want to make sure that I thank once again Ted Strickland, Sherrod Brown, Mayor Michael Coleman, your Lieutenant Governor, and I believe the next United States Senator Lee Fisher, and Mary Jo Kilroy for being here. And obviously I want to thank Joe and Rhonda Whiteman and the whole Whiteman family for sharing their backyard. We're going to have to make sure that we're helping their lawn here. It got trampled on a little bit. I hope you guys are not stepping in the corn. Michelle, by the way, would be very proud to see that you've got the vegetable garden working. All right? Give them a big round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I just want, is this still on? I just want you to know that the Whitemans made me be the O in OHIO. It's on tape. It's on tape somewhere.